Welcome back to the Top 6 Show. Hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications. Loads to talk about on the show today. We're looking back at last night's games. A little bit of a look ahead of the FA Cup games. Well, I don't know if there's not very many juicy ones this weekend that people care too much about. We're going to take a look at that. But we've got some big heated debates on the show, and I know they're going to be heated because of the subject matters that they are. We're going to be talking about Man United, their striker issues, what do they need? Mo Salah, he's Liverpool's GOAT, according to Jamie Carragher. But can he or is he the Premier League GOAT? That conversation will be happening tonight. Plus, Arsenal looking at a new sporting director. One will be employed in March, and some very good names on that list as well as they look to, and sorry to the Arsenal haters for saying this, as they look to come again and go again next year. But should Arteta be backed or should he be sacked? What is your thoughts? What is your opinions on that? We want to hear from you. We've got a brilliant panel. We've got Tom Little in the house. Man like Dan is here with us. Canadian Cam is also in the house. We can't get more than 4 people on the top row when we only have 7 on the show. So Will, unfortunately, has to go into losers row this week with Kate and Henry. But thank you both for turning up. Last night, we couldn't get a single Spurs fan on the show after a defeat, but 3 wins on the bounce. And we were inundated. with requests. So welcome back to the show, you losers.
I had a very nice FaceTime with my new baby great nephew, which was far more interesting than talking about Tottenham on the Football Terrace last night. So no apology coming from me.
In fairness, it probably made more sense than half our panel, to be fair. So, you know, I don't necessarily blame you. To be honest, Cam, last night United got a win. So, of course, by standard practice, there's barely any negative stories today surrounding the football club, barring a little weird thing about Garnacho. When it turns out he didn't storm off down the tunnel. The video footage now shows he just said to the bench that he's going to go change out of his wet clothes.
He came back, right?
And he came back. So
okay, so that's why I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Like, he's to leave because everyone was talking about and I was like, I got upset about it, and then I was like, but I remember seeing him. So okay, cool. Anyway, sorry.
So barring that story, which turned out to be an absolute complete and utter nothing burger, United win. So there's no negative stories today. No more talk about sandwiches not being made, bins not being taken out, stationery being cancelled. That for at least 24 hours, there's no stories about that. But a big story today that Man United will offer Rasmus Højlund and £33 million to attempt to sign Victor Osimhen. Is that the type of striker that Manchester United need, in your opinion, Cam?
We need any striker. So I'm like, this is the way I look at it. It's tough because I still am in the camp of if you can get Gyökeres, go get the guy who we've seen perform really well under this manager in this system, because the system's very specific. But at the same time, I do think it's a bit of a myth, and I got into it with a Nottingham Forest fan, that we don't create chances. We do. We just have absolutely nobody to put them in the net. So if we go and get Victor Osimhen for Rasmus, I'll snap your hand off for it. There's no, I'm not going to be like, oh, he can't dribble. He can't. No, he scores goals. And I don't do the whole GA merchant thing. I don't care if he plays well. If the guy scores goals, he scores a plethora of different types of goals. Watched him at Napoli a bunch. Realistically, he would do great in our team. One thing that people I was on the Rasmus, he needs time, this or that. And I do feel bad for the kid. Let me say that. I feel bad. He should have been brought in as a backup, somebody who was going to learn in time, but then he got thrust into this role that he's not ready for. So in that sense, if he needs to be the one who has to go, he has to go, because when I think about a Victor Osimhen, I look at one thing that Rasmus does really poorly. He doesn't make the runs correctly. He doesn't make any correct run. And that's a very big deal. People look at it and be like, oh, well, he doesn't put away. It's half the time he doesn't put himself in a situation to score the easy goal. And Osimhen will always do that. He will always put himself in that situation where if you get him the ball, he will score goals. So if that's on the table, I would 100% swap him. I see KJ saying he'd want Jonathan David. Keep him away from my club. I'm Canadian. No chance. Do not want Jonathan David here. But I would love Victor Osimhen. Like he's done it at the highest level. Like look, Napoli won the Scudetto with him. That is not a small feat. People forget that. That's like that is in Italy where Juve had prime dominance forever. Then you have this team with Kvaratskhelia. Then you have Osimhen. They were like the talismans of that team. They're the reasons they won. It's because he kept scoring goals. Like you look at Liverpool this year, everyone's talking about like, oh well, Salah's a goal. It's like the reason Liverpool is in first place is because Salah scores goals and gets assists. That's it. Like let's keep it. Like obviously more. There's more, but that's a huge part of the game. So get me somebody who's going to put the ball in the net. I don't care. I'll just do it. Like so. Yeah, Victor.
I agree with that. In terms of the story, just for the interest of the panel, in case it hasn't been read, most of the articles, most of the journalists reporting on this say United are very interested. The player is very open to coming to Man United. The only stumbling block is, can we afford his wages? That feels like a weird stumbling block considering Rashford's going to go and Rashford's going to be on more money than we're going to be paying Osimhen anyway. I still think Casemiro will go. There's Sancho's wages, which are 250,000 a week, which will go. So the idea that we're not going to be able to have any wages for him, I don't quite believe that. But Henry, like scoring goals have been a big problem for Man United. I don't think anybody would suggest that Osimhen fixes the club entirely. But do you think there'd be a move in the right direction, or is there a different profile, a different type of striker that you think Man United should be focusing their attention on?
I think Osimhen makes a lot of sense. Osimhen, he's played in Germany, Ligue 1, and he won a Scudetto. He's a very experienced player. I actually think he would probably fit Man United a little bit. I think there's less of a risk buying him than there is Gyökeres because he's never really played in a top five. Like he's done it in the Championship, and he's done it unbelievably well in the Portuguese league. But like Darwin Núñez, he had a very good season. Is it a gamble bringing him in? I mean, if you can get rid of Casemiro, Rashford's wages, Sancho's wages, the narrative that you can't afford him, I think, is completely not a BS. I think, again, it's just bad story trying to make bad PR about Man United. And for Rasmus Højlund, I think he needs someone like Osimhen to learn off of. Him being a lone striker, I think he's way out of his depth. I don't think Xerxes is an out-and-out number 9. I think he's a lot more of a technical player. And if you bring in Osimhen, I mean, he's a 25 goal a season player without a doubt. He will come into the Premier League if you've got enough creative players around him. He will score 20, 25 league goals. Like he's an absolute machine in front of goal. And when he wants to play for a manager, like he did at Napoli, he gives everything for the badge. He's gone over to Turkey because he's literally been kicked out of Naples, walked into the Super League. He's done really well in the Europa League, and albeit they're out of it now. A good start to life in Turkey. If you can get him for what I imagine the fee's going to be, I haven't read the report. It's around 50 million, I'd imagine 60 million.
Around 50 to 60 million, yes.
Yeah, I think that'd be great business for United. I mean, you've got Bruno Fernandes who can create chances. You've got your wing backs who you'd hope with more time in this system can create chances. I think it'd be a good buy.
You have Xerxes, Manu. We have a lot of creative players. Like
yeah, exactly. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Like Ahmad, like we do. And the thing that you said there, where it's like he ran out of Naples. People were like, Osimhen's a victim of a bad agent. I'm sorry. Like he should never have signed the deal he signed, but the agent was like, go get your money. This is like, you're going to get paid now. And failed to understand that Napoli don't really negotiate that way. They're not going to just let you out of your contract. They're not going to. And that was a big thing. When you actually deep the story, he signed that contract thinking he was getting sold the next year. And they're like, actually, just kidding. We're not, unless somebody gives us 120 million. So we got priced out. So like there are stories around him being like, oh, bad egg, this or that. It's not true. He really, truly just, you could tell he made a poor decision. Let's be honest. He made a poor decision if he knew he wanted out. But, when money's on the line and you need to get paid, you're going to take it a lot of the time, thinking the team's going to do right by you. And they didn't. So I think now we're going to get him at a depressed price. If that's the price, what's being quoted, I would snap Napoli's hand off to that.
But I don't think that you get him for that cheap, to be honest, because you're not going to be the only club that's in for him, and that's going to raise up his price. I think there's a couple of other teams that are around Europe that need a striker, right? Like Chelsea, like Barcelona possibly, right? You guys need a striker. So I think he would be a good signing because I just don't think that Højlund's a good player. in terms of for like the level that you guys need. But I don't think it'd be that cheap. I don't think that he's the striker that Manchester United should be going for as the first choice. I think that you guys should be going for Victor Gyökeres, right? I think Ruben Amorim needs players that understand this system and that are proven to be able to work in this system, right? There's no guarantee that if you go bring in like Osimhen, that he'll be able to adopt to what Amorim wants to do. Whereas you know that Victor Gyökeres is right there. He has a release clause, so his price isn't going to go up. And I know that other clubs will be in for him, but you would think that you would have some sort of advantage with the manager that has made him into the goal scorer that everybody wants, wanting to bring him to Manchester United. So I think that should be the striker that you go for. I just could see the Victor Osimhen deal being expensive in the summer, because I just think a few clubs are going to be in for him, especially if he continues his good form in Turkey, right?
Yeah,
so,
I think you make a great point there. I look at it this. I don't think we're just looking at Osimhen. I think that Gyökeres is also on the agenda, but I think there's a bigger wait. I think there's a longer waiting list for Gyökeres. I would expect to see. You often see this in the transfer window. You'll see a week go by and you're linked to 3 players, and toaster people sort of say, "Well, 2 of them must be lying." No, it's quite normal for your club to be linked to 2 or 3 players, to be talking to multiple players, because you can't guarantee you're going to land your number 1 target. So I wouldn't be surprised to see similar links to someone like Victor Gyökeres. And then,
but you don't think that he would take Amorim's call though? Like I know that you just said that there's like a waiting list, but I'm pretty sure that Amorim
he would. But it depends who else comes in for him, doesn't it? So
that's true.
As much as I think Man United have still got Paul, irrespective of being joint points with Spurs down near the bottom of the table, I sort of feel, I should put that in there because you guys were laughing at us the other day.
I noticed that.
Just put it in there. It's like, I still think we've got Paul. At the same time, let's just say this summer, Real Madrid decide, you know what, I'm making this up here as an example. We're going to move Rodrigo on and put Mbappe and Vinicius on either wing, but we need an out-and-out number 9, and they knock on the door for him. It's different. If Barcelona turn around with their current situation and say Lewandowski's leaving, he's going to the MLS, we want you, I think that's very hard for us to land Gyökeres. So I would expect us now to do the due diligence and the back work, and to get it to a point where hopefully we're in a position to say, well, we get to pick which one we want, rather than we're left with option 4 and we've done no background work on him yet. It's late in the window and you end up being stung on price. So I totally get that side of things, but I'm a big fan of Osimhen, and we do need goal scorers. Even last night we won. I was really happy with our overarching performance last night, not the mistakes that led to the goals and the mistake from Dorgu for the red card, but I love the way we were solid. Listen, I don't care it's Ipswich. I've watched Man United in the last 2.5-3 years play at home against teams like Burnley and get torn apart and concede chances and get peppered, to watch us play 45 minutes where we didn't concede an opportunity. I am starving. I would admit I'm starving. When you ever played out when you were kids and you've been out all day, you got no money because you're poor, like me, a proper povo when I was young, and you get home and your mouth is dry, and that glass of water, it tastes like you're drinking the amber nectar. That could be juice directly from God. No diddy when I say that, right? It has an amazing taste, right? That's how thirsty I am. So I was really happy with last night. However, we still need a goal scorer. There was a great bit of play by Lenny Yoro. I don't know if you guys saw it, where he chests it, does a Cruyff turn. Most centre-backs in world football can't do that. This kid's special. Plays the ball into Rasmus, and I think Salah, I think Isak, I think Gyökeres, I think Osimhen. I think so many of Solanke would, Mbappe would, and I know a lot of them are better. They'd all wrap their left foot round that and go for goal. Højlund just did some weird dummy, and even Zirkzee,
that was wild. That was wild.
But even Zirkzee, who had a very good game in the approach play, there was a free kick we had, and the ball came over, and it was either De Ligt or Maguire got their head onto it, and they knocked it over, and he didn't make the run. And I saw both of them turn around, screamed at him, the centre-backs, and make the run. We put the ball in there for you. And it's because Zirkzee doesn't have those predatory instincts as the goal scorer. We need that so much at Man United. It's so lacking in our team right now. And I think that if we had a goal scorer now, at this point, we wouldn't be sitting 13th, 14th, 15th in the league. We'd probably be somewhere between 7th and 9th. We wouldn't be always conceding the first goal because it would put some fear in our opponents. So, look, if it ends up being Osimhen, I'm really comfortable with it. It would be a great step forward for us. But one block of many to rebuild this squad. I'm telling you, no Man United fan should get carried away.
We scored 3 goals. 2 were from a defender and 1 was from the other team. That tells you everything you need to know. When we score goals, it's not our forwards right now. We are when you starving is the best way to put it. We are famished at this point.
Yes,
I think though there's got to be a little bit of worry from United just in terms of the striker market this summer, in the sense of you need a striker in the same way an awful lot of teams in Europe are going to be shopping for a striker. And as you know, the market is pretty saturated with them, but it can dry up pretty quickly. You know, I know that there's a lot of clubs looking at Alexander Isak. If Newcastle get Champions League football, that pretty much takes him off the market. So then the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Barca, the likes of Liverpool, these clubs that are focusing on Isak as a target, they then go down their list, and you get closer and closer to the likes of your Gyökeres and your Osimhen's popping up in these other clubs who, I know Manchester United have the historical and the name and this, that, and the other, but other clubs are just better placed for certain players in the immediate short term. And I feel like if certain striker options, so I'm just going to say, for example, Isak get Newcastle qualified Champions League, Isak's off the market, and then Benjamin Sesko stays at Leipzig, says he's staying at Leipzig 1 more year. And then all these other clubs around Europe who are looking at strikers, they're now going, right, well, we need a guy who can get goals. Osimhen done it. Gyökeres done it. They're all focused on the same guys as you.
I agree. Really I agree. If you all foul and do a bad job in getting your strikers, that could have a negative effect on Man United because you may look at our targets. I absolutely agree with you. If Liverpool and Arsenal and everybody else does a terrible job landing their targets, of course that can impact us, and I'm aware of it. But at the same time, it's just not something I'm going to personally concern myself with in February. But you are right. You know, if we don't, and I think there's a super chat that mentioned something like this here that said, gets Kenda. I keep wanting to say Quenda, but I've heard it's Kenda, pronounced like K, and a striker in first this summer. Again, you had 2 players like that to our attack, and it gives us a lot more. What we also need is we do need some speed. We need some acceleration. We need some power as well. Our team lacks like athletes, and in the Prem right now, it's very, very important. Le Blue and Red says, Terry, you predicted Højlund with service is going to bag goals. Are you going to predict the same for the next United striker? Haven't you noticed United destroy players? Well, that's what I'll do, Le Blue and Red, moving forward is every single player United sign, I'll say is bad based on that. And then what you'll do if any of them turn out to be good is go, Terry, do you remember when you turned around and said that person was bad? I absolutely admit that I've got the Højlund deal wrong. I said he'd score 15, 16 goals in his first season. I think he ended up with 15 or 16, but it hasn't worked out.
On that, Terry? Didn't you bet me that he'd score more than Solanke?
Potentially, yeah.
I think...
But yeah, probably. And look, I'm a man. I can hold my hands up and say I got something wrong. It hasn't worked out. I thought that if he got more service, we'd get more goals. What I would say is that the level of service this season has got worse. So the reasoning that I gave that he'd score more goals if there was more service, I still stand by. If we were creating more chances for him, I still think he'd score more goals. But some of that is also upon him. Cam's alluded to that with his runs, etc. But yeah, I've got that one wrong. I'm sure if we, you know, if you're Le Bleu, and I appreciate your super chats, but I'm sure if you put your face on camera 3 times a day and spoke about football and gave predictions, there'd be like every single person on this panel, like even like your favorite YouTubers, there'd be a litany of things that got wrong. And I'd say, hey, you know, people get things wrong. It's part of the reason why I've said heated today. I've literally seen Man United fans this week. It's a great segue. Thank you, Le Bleu, the Red and Blues. I've seen Man United fans this week say, Amorim is a good coach, but he's coaching us too much. We need somebody that allows us to be a bit more free. And I don't know about you, Cam. Got my blood boiling when I was reading these tweets, seeing these TikTok clips. I'm sitting there like, hang on. You are the same mugs who for 4 years said, we need someone who coaches us, someone who drills us, someone that teaches us what to do. You get someone like it, and now it's a case of, oh, you're going to ruin the players by coaching them too much. And that's the issue I have. You know, we all get things wrong. We all make mistakes. But for me, the way people just like flip-flop in the wind, it's unbelievable. We need a coach. We need drills, work these players hard. Now it's no, we just need someone that lets them play. You don't need to coach. You overcoach, really. Like doing drills and having a system now is overcoaching. The duplicity in the words of some Man United fans is, I'm sorry to swear, but is fucking embarrassing.
Bro, this is why I stay off X for the most part when it comes to. I used to be on it a lot more, but like, it's just you knew this was gonna happen, and yeah, I mean, maybe people on the panel wouldn't have heard, but like Ollie, when he was flying, doing well, all we heard was what? Freestyle football. There's no coaching. There's no style. He just lets them go out there and run and have a good time, talking about his whole, like, how he gave the speeches about having fun, because that's what he talked about outwardly. And then you would see his training, and you'd see the training, and you'd see him fucking losing it on guys, being like I still remember yelling at Jesse Lingard, and everybody was like, "Oh, we're not coached enough." And then Eric Ten Hag comes in. "Oh, we just want him to play the system. We want a system that looks good. That we're not always on the back foot. We need to concede less." Amarin comes in. We're conceding less. We're controlling the game. All of a sudden, it's, you know what? Maybe we should go back to the 4-3-3 because we need to win some matches. Like, it's insane, the flip-flopping that happens through our fan base, where it's like, yo, just pick a lane. I actually don't care. Like, if your lane was, I actually was cool with just winning games and whatever, I don't need a style, that's fine. But most United fans online, especially the loudest ones, were all about the fact that we needed a coach to come in with a system.
The thing is, though, Cam, in what you said there, when you said, like, you don't need a manager with a style, well, Ollie did have a style, and it was a little bit more old school, where there would be a shape out of possession, but then there was a bit more freedom for the players to do what they want. And in fact, if we're going to get shameless with it, most clubs in the Premier League are now copying the exact way Ollie had us playing 3 to 4 years ago, which is lots of speed, lots of power in the team. And essentially, and I don't know what you call this, right? You can create a funny little name. I did that once with a Chelsea video to prove a point about tacticos. I had a video that did like 300,000 views. It was like a tactical breakdown because I called the formation something like the inverted hexagon, and everybody went crazy. They whopped out their boys and their wank sock and had it away. And it was a bit of I did it really seriously, but behind the scenes, like the guys we did it with, we were laughing like this is just satire. It was seeing something. Oh, what shape does that look like? A hexagon. Well, let's call it like the inverted hexagon overlap and see whether people buy into it. So we were doing what lots of clubs do now. We were just essentially trying to work the ball into a shooting position within 4 or 5 passes. Now, in my day, that was just called playing direct.
That's
not route one, but playing direct. And that's really fashionable now. But yeah, the duplicity in these United fans is crazy. They always...
So are you saying that Ollie was ahead of the curve?
I'm saying that Ollie had a way of... Again, I wouldn't go that far either. I wouldn't go that far either. But this is why sometimes it's important in life to stay in your lane. When you listen to a lot of successful people speak, maybe in the entertainment, the film, the music industry, a lot of them have a similar story, which was, I was auditioning and auditioning and auditioning. I was getting nowhere. I was broke. And then I almost quit. And then like 6 weeks later, I got my big break. There's a regular occurrence, but it's because they continued in that path, right? I think people that fail are always chopping and changing. And you must have all got friends like this who, like, every 6 months they're starting a new business or they're starting a new career, or they're, this week what are you doing now? I'm becoming a counselor. You see him again in 9 months. What are you doing now? I'm becoming a PT trainer. A few years later, I've started working in the bank now. But those people typically never achieve what they want because they never stick at something long enough. And I just feel that what Man United were building, if we'd have carried on in that direction, I think we could have had a very successful team by now. Maybe with a new head coach, but a similar style. And I think that's why I'm saying about Ruben Amorim. We've picked it now.
I'm going to say something crazy.
Go on.
I think if it wasn't for Martial missing those absolute sitters in the Europa League, I'm sure you remember them. And if it wasn't for us signing Ronaldo, there's a good chance Ollie is still our manager. Because he was winning games. Like, if you look back, he was winning games. He was winning them by margin. He was doing it in a way that some people didn't like, but it didn't matter. He got us to multiple finals. He didn't win them, but it wasn't on him that he didn't win those games. It was literally players dropping the ball in the biggest moments. And then when we made the Ronaldo call, which is on him because he said he backed that play, that was when we were starting to come into form. We brought in Jadon Sancho, who was a key piece to how he liked to play. We finally got him because he wanted him the year before. And then you brought in Ronaldo and it changed everything. And again, I love CR7, but it changed the whole way we played. We started catering to him. This was before we knew Greenwood was a piece of shit. Greenwood started to stagnate and get upset. There was a whole bunch of discourse. Edison Cavani, we somehow put to the Shadowlands, even though he was amazing for us, realistically. I think Ollie would at least, not maybe still be here, but he would have stayed longer, and I think he would have won some more things.
Potentially. I just think it's like anything. If you stick, especially when you're one of the big clubs, like all of us on this panel, and you have money, if you pick a style of football and keep adding better and better players to that squad, and maybe at some point improve on the coaches every 4 or 5 years, there's a high level chance you win and you're successful. But the problem is with a lot of football fans is they want to act like they're free spirit and they speak their mind, but they're not. They're conformists. That's what they are, is conformists. And they go with what's popular. Direct, quick football with pacey, quick players now is really popular. Everybody likes it. So people want that kind of play because, that's what you have to, it's like with music. You youngsters on the panel, you youngsters watching will get it. There's always a type of music you've got to be listening to because it's what's popular as opposed to maybe what's good. If that makes sense. Because if it was about what was good, nobody would ever have bought a Spice Girls song in the 90s if it was about actual good quality music. But it was popular. As an example, boy bands in the 90s, we actually listened back to the lyrics and the actual tone of the music. It was all like made on a machine. It wasn't even real music by instruments, but it was popular, so a lot of people liked it. Football fans do the same thing. A few years ago, you had to have attacking fullbacks that were brilliant on the ball. How many people talk about that now? How many people speak about that being the most essential thing? Because it isn't popular anymore. So generally with those people, it's because they're conformists and they're sheep, and they go with what's popular because there's safety in that number when it comes to that opinion, because a lot of people will back that idea. And I see it today. There are certain United fans tweeting about how they want Garnacho gone. And the amount of receipts people are pulling out from only like 18 months ago, a year ago even, giving him the number 7 shirt, backing him, he's a generational talent. Now, it's not like they've addressed this and gone, I got it wrong. They've just gone to the opposite side because that's the popular opinion to have. So, yeah, that's one of the big issues with United. But look, people, we'd love to get your views on that. I'd love to get your opinions on it as well. A few comments here before we move forward. This one that I wanted to put up earlier says, I agree, Terry, but why didn't Amorim know at least? Well, Amorim didn't know what Garnacho did. Because if you watch the footage again, they touch each other and say thanks and whatever else. And then the manager is intently watching the game. I'd be more concerned if Amorim's watching what everyone on his bench is doing in that moment than watching his team. So again, it just really is a big nothing burger as far as I'm personally concerned. Terry, what do you want from a manager? Twisted Bubby, you've asked me that before. I've told you the answer before. Go back and watch those streams, brother. You know my response. Welcome, Egal, to the show. Appreciate you coming on, bro. I really, really do. Moving on from that, Liverpool won last night. Champions elect, I think most of us would agree. If they don't win it from here, burn the club down, I think, because it would be the biggest collapse in the history of English top flight football. You're going to win it. But I want to speak a little bit about Mo Salah. I want to focus on Mo Salah specifically for the next little bit of the show. And viewers, I really want to get your opinions on this as well, because I think it's an important conversation. The first part of it is this. Jamie Carragher, it got ignored, really, because he butchered and the way he disrespected and butchered AFCON. But he was talking about, with another league title, he believes Mo Salah is going to surpass Kenny Dalglish and Steven Gerrard as the greatest Liverpool player of all time. And you're going to win that league title now. So I'm going to go with Jamie Carragher here, who is best friends with Steven Gerrard and the Liverpool legend himself. Mo Salah is about to be crowned the king of Liverpool. Is he, though, or could he become, over the next couple of years, the Premier League's GOAT?
I don't see why not.
Explain that.
If he stays until, let's just say, 2028, another 3 years after this, and I'm not expecting him to keep doing these numbers. These are generational type numbers. I don't think that he'd be able to keep this level of production up across 4 years. But if we just averaged out to what he normally does, which is about 25 goals and 10 to 15 assists in a season, if we averaged back out to that, and we done that across the next 3 years, we're talking about 75 goals and close to 50 assists, on top of what he's already done, where you could add another 1 or 2 league titles, another 1 or 2 Champions Leagues, another 1 or 2 Player of the Years, another 1 or 2 Golden Boots, another 1 or 2 Playmaker Awards. If he does that, any measurable metric, bar the goal-scoring record in the league, which I don't know how far off he is on that, so I don't know what he needs to catch that up. But every other measurable metric, bar most assists and most goals, Mohamed Salah will be leading it. Mohamed Salah will be the face of the Premier League in terms of most Player of the Years, most Golden Boots, most Playmaker Awards. You know, he's added the one thing, he should do, provided there's no foolery in the voting this year. he should add the one thing that is seen as the game changer when it comes to these debates, which is a Ballon d'Or. He adds a Ballon d'Or this year. He becomes only I think it would be fourth because of Rodri now, player to win a Ballon d'Or whilst in the Premier League. You know, I don't see what the argument would be if come 2028, we're talking about Mohamed Salah having 250 Premier League goals, 100 odd assists, 4 Player of the Years, 4 Golden Boots, 3 Playmaker Awards. What would the argument be? Oh, he doesn't dribble nice on the eye. Oh, he looks a bit stiff when he kicks the ball. That doesn't matter. He would be, in any measurable metric, the best. He would be the gold standard. I don't see how, if he goes on to achieve all that, he wouldn't be that. And I'm not saying he is that now. There was a clear sort of thing with what I said. It needs to be across another 3 years where he's putting up really good numbers again. But I don't see, if he does that, what the argument against him would be. I don't see what you could push against.
I hope he's leaving.
I'm sure everyone hopes he's leaving.
Yeah, because I don't want him to stay and to even entertain these conversations, because I think Henry at this moment in time, he's going to eclipse his assist record. He's going to have a better statistical season than Henry ever had in his career at Arsenal. And he's going to go on to win the league right now. That's 2 league titles. He already has Champions League. If he goes and does the Champions League again, that's going to further his legacy at Liverpool. But the thing about Henry is Henry has the impact and influence that he had over the Premier League at the time. He had so much influence bringing the game and making it more worldwide known. He brought the French in contingency. He brought more eyes onto the Premier League, and he was one of the faces when the Premier League was going boom, going against the Serie A and some of the other leagues. When they had all the superstars, he was the superstar of the Premier League, one of the main guys who's marketed across the world. Mo Salah, even in this age when the Premier League dominates, he's not the face that dominates the headlines and is always constantly advertised.
I think he will be.
You're actually wrong about that.
I don't think he's the guy. I think there's times where you look at it, Erling Haaland's the guy. There's times where other players are popping in and out. Most Salah has
somebody who works in sports marketing across the world. I actually got a cease and desist because we were using his image too much, and then we had to explain to him that we used other images somewhere else. His image, like Mo Salah, is who people know from the Prem right now. Outside of
you know what?
It's just fact.
Egal, I want to throw a few things at you when you say that. And I mean it from this perspective. Henry was one of the faces of the Premier League, but he wasn't the face. And I tell you as to why. You're looking at that from an Arsenal perspective because you were a gooner. When Henry was in his pomp, I don't think we can not pretend that the likes of course, David Beckham was still in the Premier League, who was a massive face here. You had Wayne Rooney that was coming through, who was a massive face of the Premier League. There was Frank Lampard as an example. There was Didier Drogba. These were all, and there'll be other names who were just, Alan Shearer. Henry was one of the faces. He's one of the GOATs. He's one of the greatest, there's no doubt. But he wasn't the only light. And your point there about bringing in international fans, let us not pretend like there aren't hundreds of millions of people from the Arab nations, from the Middle East, who look up to this man, who, like Mo Salah, I think is one of the pivotal. There's a reason they want to pay him the most obscene amount of money to go and play there because of what he's worth. He's bringing an entire region and a whole new group of people eyes to the Premier League. I think not only to Liverpool will it be a big miss if he goes. I think the Premier League, if whatever league Mo Salah goes to at weekends, that's hundreds of millions of people that will start watching that league instead. I think Mo Salah is exceedingly marketable if we're going down that route.
Mohamed Salah makes Liverpool a hell of a lot of money in terms of the image rights and stuff. And if we're talking about influence, I think Mohamed Salah was the first footballer to ever be featured in like a Times magazine. For the most influential people, Mohamed Salah was in that. This is the level that we're talking about here. We're not talking about, he wore gloves and had long sleeves and he had the aura about him. No, we're talking about a guy who was a global influence on multiple levels. If he go on a purely footballing level, he keeps this up. He surpasses every metric Henry had. But I'm just assuming that this season he'll win a Golden Boot and a Playmaker, a Player of the Year, because I don't think there's really much argument otherwise on those 3. He does that. He's matched Henry's Golden Boot total. He's matched Henry's Player of the Year total. And I think he's either matched or surpassed his Playmaker total. Whilst I think he'd be one Premier League behind at that point with a second Premier League.
How many years?
I think if he wins the Champions League
how
this
many years
season,
now?
If he wins the Champions League this season,
Isn't it more years also?
Yeah, I mean,
He's been here
on that,
since 2017.
we're mentoring Henry, and we know the numbers are great. Has Mo Salah been a more influential player, a more successful player than Wayne Rooney, than Ryan Giggs? Would you put him above those players in the Premier League era?
Yeah, I'd say yeah. If you're looking at what he's going to do or what he's on course to do, we're talking about a guy who is going to have pretty much every record. This is the level we can talk about.
Put him over Rudy.
Yeah. And what I'm saying, and everything I'm saying is contingent. If Mohamed Salah left this season, we could have the arguments, but I'd have a lot less of a. I wouldn't have a stronger point.
I get what you mean by records, but a midfielder is never going to have the same goal scoring records as an attacker. So it's if you get where I'm coming from, because
but you know that the attackers are the ones that get all the glory. Like that's just how it is because they have the stats. So it's not really fair to like a defender or a midfielder that might be phenomenal, but the guy that's scoring all the goals is going to get most of the praise because that's what people care to talk about. I think Mo Salah could definitely be in that conversation. I don't see how if you're going to do, let's say, an all-time Premier League starting 11, I don't see how you don't have him in there. Mm-hmm. Now, again, at the same time, I'm not sure who would get dropped, right? I only started watching football 10 years ago, so a lot of these guys who are considered like all-timers, I didn't really get to see them like most of you guys more than likely have. But I think based off what Tom is saying, I do agree. If Salah does sign a new contract at Liverpool, right? Let's say he signs a 3-year extension and he's here for 3 more years and he's relatively fit. Even if he slows down, the output that Salah has is still going to be better than what a lot of other attackers are. So now you're talking about he's going to win the Premier League this season, right? They have a very good chance to win the Champions League. And then who knows what the future holds if they back slot and then they do spend money in the summer and then they do get a little bit better. Now he might win more than just 2. He could end up leaving with like 3 or 4. And I think that he definitely 100% has a very strong case to be considered the GOAT. But I just think it's so subjective because some people are going to care about stats, but then other people are going to care about what it looks like on the eye. Like that's why you still have, for example, like the Hazard and Salah conversation, or just different things like that. Because even though Salah is superior to Hazard when it comes to numbers and longevity, but when you watch like Hazard, for example, it makes you feel better. So it's subjective. So it has to be like something that we all can agree on.
Yeah, I hear that. Dan, we haven't really heard too much on the show yet, but I want to ask you, I'm going to ask this question. You've got to premise these things so people get really angry online because the brains don't always work. This is me asking a question, not a statement. So toast to people, relax. Is there an element when it comes to Mo Salah of recency bias? When it comes to and we're talking about multiple other players, is there a recency bias issue here? And maybe there's a lot of people online talking about Mo Salah who are like Will, that have been watching football 10 years and didn't watch Henry play, didn't watch Giggs, didn't watch Drogba, didn't watch Lampard, didn't watch Gianfranco Zola, Eden Hazard, and the list goes on and on and on. Is there a chance here that this is recency bias sort of clouding the waters of this debate?
It's hard to say. I mean, Salah obviously joined the Premier League and his first season was unbelievable. So, and we're talking about, he's been here quite a long time now. So I feel like he's been performing for a long enough period of time to remove recency bias from the discussion, even though I feel like if we're looking at just what he's doing this season alone, I think this is arguably the best he's ever looked. But potentially, I think he looks that good. So, no, I don't think so. I think he's been great, to be honest with you. He's done better than I ever expected him to do from when I saw him in the early days when he was at Chelsea in the Premier League. I thought he was a player that would probably never cope with it. And he went on to prove a lot of people wrong. Even some of the best footballers, best managers doubted a player like Salah. And I think he's gone on to prove them all wrong. If people are sort of blaming it on recency bias, then honestly, I don't know what sort of levels they thought these other people are at. And then maybe you could argue that there's a nostalgia bias to it, potentially, that they're comparing him to these players, suggesting he's nowhere near it. He's been absolutely fantastic, to be honest with you.
I mean, obviously I want to stay, but I think if you're talking about like legacy, because a lot of legacies to do with storylines and what you can sort of write around that. Mohamed Salah signs a 2-year deal at Liverpool, which takes him to 2027. He would have been in the Premier League for 10 seasons at Liverpool. He could have a level of arguably unmatched consistency in that time of pure numbers of pure goal scoring feats of pure creative levels across a 10-year stretch, which would, longevity. I know Giggs has incredible longevity, but in this recent era, there has not been a player who has maintained such a consistent level of longevity where every year, regardless of if his team's performing well or if they're performing poorly by their standards, he produces the same numbers. He has the same impact every single game.
I mean,
we
keep forgetting about Wayne Rooney. Like that's the only reason a reason I'm not challenging you, Tom, because you prefaced with him staying longer and winning more. So it's hard to argue that fact, because if he does, sure. But for me, obviously, like I'm going to bring up the greatest debate of players. It's LeBron, MJ right now, right? And everybody always points to one thing: it's championships. At the end of the day, Rooney's got 5 league titles. Like that is not that is a ridiculous amount of league titles. He's played.
If that's the case, then Ryan Giggs has got 12 or 13.
I understand. No, I understand.
Bill Russell argument, isn't it?
But I'm saying when we look at like longevity versus not just when we bring the stats, you bring the championships, you bring it all together. Now the one thing that separates those two players, because obviously Salah's got better goal scoring, he's got better stats in that sense, but not by like insane margins based on the position.
Yeah, but then Cam, Steven Gerrard is widely regarded as one of the best midfielders in the Prem, right? He's not got the numbers. He has got numbers, but he's not got the best numbers from a midfielder. He's not got the most amount of titles, but he is widely regarded by many as the best player to play in the Premier League in the central midfield role. So it isn't always about titles.
I think not for everybody, but typically people that don't include the problem with the title conversation is that people always want to misconstrue it because they'll go, Luke Chadwick's got a Premier League that make him better than Gerrard. That anyone who makes the argument that it's just about having the trophies is a moron. But equally, what I look at when it comes to the trophies is why I don't think I'd have Harry Kane in Premier League terms in my top 10 strikers. And I'll tell you as to why. Because I didn't see, compared to Aguero, Henry, Salah, as attackers or strikers.
Sorry. Say that again.
You winding Henry up?
You don't need me to say it again. I'll keep speaking. You'll understand. So when you look at Rooney, Andy Cole, Ian Wright, Henry, okay, you look at Didier Drogba, you look at Aguero, you look at Erling Haaland, you look at Salah, and you look at Mane. And if you look at Alan Shearer as an example, I saw those strikers deliver in multiple seasons where they're in title races.
Influence.
And I think
are we saying Salah and Mane are strikers? Because I'm not saying they're strikers.
I said strikers and attackers because they're not wingers. They're not wingers like Ryan Giggs and Beckham and these type used to be who starting McManaman was, who were right side and left sided midfielders. So they played as deep as central midfielders do now, and they attacked. Those players were more akin to what we've seen from a Trent Alexander-Arnold. So the numbers aren't the same, but attackers. I always feel this, that when you're in those title races year in, year out, that is the pressure. Because what have we seen criticism of? We've seen a lot of criticism of Saka in the last few years. And everybody says, and Liverpool Spurs fans included, Henry, but what did he do in the run-in? But what did he do in the run-in? But what did he do in the big games? What did he do in the run-in? You can't have that energy towards Saka and then sit there and go, well, Kane's got to be up there with the best. Well, what he was rarely in a run-in to prove how good he could be. And I think the goals that Aguero, Drogba, Henry, Andy Cole, Ruud van Nistelrooy, I'm just naming them, the goals they scored in those title runs, the Henrys, the Salahs, I think they weigh so much more. It's why Drogba didn't have the greatest goal-scoring record, but the volume of semi-finals, big matches, and finals he scored in, those goals are valuable. So I do think there's, when you look at trophies, it isn't just having the trophy.
To be clear,
how influential you are in winning them. What's wrong with that logic, Henry? Go on, tell me.
Would you say Jamie Vardy's a better striker than Harry Kane because he won a Premier League title?
He's had a better career.
So again, that's a really good one. Vardy was in one title race and he delivered in it. So you could make that argument. But no, it was one title race. Say Jamie Vardy did in that title race season. Say the goals he scored since then were in title races, 3, 4, 5 years on the bounce. Then I'd say yes, he did it in one season. I saw Harry Kane score some goals when you guys were in a title race once. What I'm saying about Kane is I didn't see him do it enough in those massive games. And this isn't even a dig at Tottenham. It may sound I've seen my club like 20 years in title races every year. Those last 10, 15 games are so pressured. The players that step up and score, it's different. So if you're not in them, You're not tested in that. People used to say to me, "Oh, Letizia is one of the greatest ever Premier League players." On ability, yes, but he was never put in a situation where he's tested with the highest level of pressure, the highest level of media scrutiny. That tells you the difference. And I think it's the same in all sports. You know, delivering in the Super Bowl is massive. Delivering in the big championship game is massive. It's different from doing it in the first few months of a season. I think when you're a fighter, that world champion fight, that world title defense against one of the greatest, it's a harder fight than when you're fighting at York Hall on a Saturday, on a Sunday afternoon. So I just feel like trophies are important, but it's how you helped your team deliver in them. And, you know, that's why Mo Salah's in the conversation, because look what he's doing in this title race. He's putting it to bed before it's even a fucking race in the running.
Does he lose marks for his period at Chelsea where he couldn't really get into the team?
Does Henry lose marks for his final 2 months at Arsenal, where he was, you know, older and barred a goal
scoring in the final?
Yeah,
Are
like
we talking about when he came back on loan?
Yeah, but that was a period of time that happened, wasn't it?
Are we talking about one second. Are we talking about 4 games when he's on loan?
But it was a period of time that happened. Salah played 11 games for Chelsea.
Yeah, it's not really comparable.
I think that's irrelevant. I think it's so relevant.
Scored against Arsenal.
That's a reach.
Like,
KDB, we don't talk about KDB's Chelsea days. Like that's so irrelevant. Like
I feel I look at that more as a knock at Chelsea, not recognizing what they had. Yeah, it's a good question. I look at it more as Chelsea made a mistake with KDB and Salah. They made a mistake.
I don't think Chelsea did make a mistake. I don't think those players were what they were. I think they had to go away to become what they become, to be honest with you. I think they had to feel rejection, had to feel not being wanted, had to find the hunger. I think they were very talented kids, but I don't think they were the finished article that has put them to the very top of footballing.
Whatever makes you sleep at night, right?
I don't think that was Chelsea's fault.
Do me a favor. Sell me Cole Palmer now as well with that attitude, please, bruv.
No, because Cole Palmer... No, but Cole Palmer's obviously at a young age come in and proven himself and was given the opportunity in the window. It's the same with Reece James, Tammy Abraham. The door was open for those players to step in, but the door wasn't open for De Bruyne, Lampard, Oscar, Hazard, Mata. They're all in his way. The same with Salah as well. There were other wingers, Willian, Pedro, Hazard, that were in his way of getting starting football. Cole Palmer walked into a team where Nkunku was injured and hasn't looked back because he took it by the scruff of his neck. I think De Bruyne was good, but Mourinho was a much tougher manager. You could argue the same about Lukaku. Lukaku first time round really didn't succeed at Chelsea when he was given a sniff, but he went off to other teams in the Prem and he took his opportunities. I think these were kids in a dressing room full of men and winners, and it was ruthless. And I think they had some growing up to do when they were there. And I think if you spoke to them, they'd probably admit that now, that they weren't ready to fight on the level that they've been throughout the majority of their careers.
I was just going to add one more thing to this, Terry. I think this whole debate about GOAT in any sport is an era thing. Depending on which era you grew up in, your GOAT can be different. So say, for example, the kids now growing up, they might say to themselves, their GOATs are the players that are currently playing. And when they get older, they're not going to mention the Henrys, the Alan Shearers, and everything else. Our generation, your generation, they're going to mention Henry. They're going to mention Rooney. They're going to mention these guys who played. And my kids or your kids or anybody else's kids in this panel, they might not even mention Mo Salah and these guys. They might have the next generation's player that they mention as the GOAT. So I think this whole GOAT debate is in the time, and generation on generation have different GOATs. But each person's greatest of all time in that era is difficult to compare them because games change.
You have to have eras. I mean this with respect to Will. Will can't have a debate about the whole Premier League era. He's been watching football 10 years. So it makes it's crazy. I do think it should be split into eras, because I keep hearing on the overlap, they keep talking about like Beckham and Salah because they're both playing on the right. And it infuriates me that not a single member of the production team. In fact, I love Paul Scholes as a player. The fact that Paul Scholes' friend is sitting there and is saying nothing. And so it wasn't a right-sided. Beckham wasn't inside fucking forward on the right, was he? He was a right midfield player, a completely different role. Like, that's why I think the era things are there, because
you just said, Terry, they occupied like completely different areas of the pitch 90% of the time that they played.
That's true. It's absolutely true, and there's loads of differences in the sport now. So yeah, I do think eras should become a part of this. But Mo Salah is definitely up there.
Terry, Can I just counteract what you said about Harry Kane? Because he's the second. No, I'm going to put my 2 pence in. I've sat quiet, listened to everything.
I said, of course you can.
No, I'm doing that to Tom because Tom's trying to.
No.
Okay.
It was just the Harry Kane bit. I was laughing at the take before it because I don't agree with it.
213 goals in the Premier League, right? Second behind Alan Shearer. And you say, but they didn't win anything. First of all, they didn't win anything because he was at Spurs. If he was at another team, he would have. But surely his goals then become more impressive because he didn't have the players that, say, a top team that are challenging for everything would have. Feeding him. No?
Good point. Holds water. He's a very good striker.
Your one team was amazing, to be clear, though.
Hang on. Sorry, Cam. Please let me respond. Sorry. He's a very good player. And he's a top striker. I'm not belittling anything he's done. There's just a lot. There's a number that I would put above him because I believe when you're doing it consistently in title races, and I do look at decision making. So if you've got a striker that doesn't quite reach the highest level and have the highest accolades because he eats too much McDonald's, that's a decision. He decided stupidly to stay at Tottenham as long as he did. He should have moved when he was 24, 25 to a better team to test himself more. And at the end of the day, there's a reason why certain players want to go to Liverpool's and Man United's and now Man City's, when Man United were good, that is. There's a reason people want to go to Bayern Munich's and they want to go to Barcelona's and they want to go to Real Madrid's because the pressure is the pinnacle and the pressure is there. It's why every MMA fighter worth their salt want to get themselves to the UFC because they want to prove themselves as the very best in the world. And I think for me, I'm not saying there's nothing about Harry Kane. I'm not saying he's a bad footballer. I'm not saying he's a trash footballer. I'm not saying I'm not slagging off anything he did. I'm not downplaying him. I'm simply stating that what I saw Eric Cantona, I didn't even mention him, what I saw Cantona do in the 5.5, 6 years he was at Man United, in those title races, in those run-ins, I think for me that holds a lot more weight than the extra goals that Harry Kane has scored, even though those goals are very valuable. I just think that they're worth so much more in my personal opinion. And I'm not going to say nothing negative about Harry Kane. I was glad when he left Tottenham. He's going to win a league title, I think, this year. And I hope he wins some more. I want Harry Kane to have winners' medals. I think he's far too good a football player to not have them. But my view has always been this, Kate. And you can disagree with my logic, and I'm really not sensitive about that. I view it this way. If you're going to get all the great Premier League strikers to go into a club, we're going to go to a club and sit on a nice table. I just look at what they've all achieved, and I'm like, how can Harry Kane, how did he get in? How did he get admission when you've got everybody sitting in there with their trophies and the goals they scored in finals and the great goals they scored in title run-ins? He doesn't have any of that. And for me, that's the iconic moments. I remember all the things that like Andy Cole did for Man United. That goal, I mean, there's loads that stand out. The goal in the semi-final against Juve. But that goal, that chip against Spurs, ironically, the final day of the season to win it, that goal will live on in, forget Man United history, in 100 years' time, that goal's going to get played because it led to us winning a treble. That goal, the legacy that comes with that is part of what I'm talking about when it comes to the top 10. It's not just ability, it's the iconic nature of it. And those goals in title run-ins, semi-finals, finals, lifting those trophies, they propel you to another level because they're remembered forever because of the history they create. So what I want to reiterate again is I'm not saying Kane's a bad football player. On ability, he's right up there. But I think when it comes to legendary status, more than ability has to come into it personally.
Who is individual?
One thing on that, because you mentioned the teams, Kate, and like that team, I think what hurts Harry Kane, I think what hurts him is not winning in that year where, because a lot of greats don't win because of a great player in their way or a great team. And you can always sympathize with that. Like, again, I'm always a basketball fan. I always bring it up on here. Like a Charles Barkley didn't win a championship because of Michael Jordan. Doesn't mean he wasn't amazing. But when I look at Harry Kane, the year that you should, Moussa Dembele, Christian Eriksen, Kyle Walker, Daniel, I can name that team. Dele Alli, I love that team. I remember sitting here as a Canadian being like, maybe I should have picked the Spurs. Like maybe I should have went with my brother. Like that team was so good. I forget who your center back pairing was. They were
Toby and
like you guys were so out of it. Yeah,
that team was unreal.
That team was unbelievable. So, and Son was there obviously. So to not win when you had that team and you had the year where everybody else was kind of like, they're best. I think that hurts him the most because that's when he should have dragged them to it. And if he won that league that year, we would all talk about Harry Kane as like, cool. The year that he should have, when he had that amazing team, he did it. And that's what I think hurts him a lot when we talk about GOATs, like for me, because that team was awesome. That's
So,
from the
Timmy,
soul.
did you see that this week ESPN have announced that Harry Kane's goal against Palace has been voted the best ever goal in the Premier League?
I mean, it's not better than Rooney's overhead kick. So I don't
No,
know.
it has been voted. It did get voted
No,
in
I'm
something.
not
I saw that on
debating it.
Twitter.
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
they
It
released
did, Kate. Yeah, that did happen. But I don't know what the poll was.
I saw another ESPN poll that showed a goal by Mohamed by Messi. It's a good goal at the World Cup, and it said this has been voted the greatest goal in World Cup history. And I'm just thinking that's got to be kids, because it was one of the goals he scored from range in like the quarterfinals. Good goal. And I'm like, that's not the greatest World Cup goal of all time. The first one that came into my head was Bergkamp against Argentina in 1998. And I'm thinking that's the thing with those polls. But yeah, look, Harry Kane, excellent football player. I'm not going to slag him off. I'm just not. There is just, for me, there's a hierarchy when it comes to legendary status. I want to go to somebody's super chat, see if we can. First one says, will any of you visit the rejuvenated, or what did I say? Renovated new camp, 105 capacity seat. Will, you'll be up for that, wouldn't you?
No.
Going to the enemy? No.
No.
What's your
I'd
capacity? What's your capacity, Will?
I believe ours is like 80 something thousand.
86k in it or something.
Yeah.
85K?
Yeah, it's like 80 something thousand. But like it's like completely like
They've got a
Small.
museum now, haven't they, for their trophies?
Small.
Yeah, but they own
I
their
mean,
stadium.
no,
We don't even know when we pass
but
it. They
it's
flew that off.
a lot bigger.
They've got
So,
a fucking museum for their trophies, and we've got a go-kart track.
Barcelona have a museum as well.
Yeah, I think Madrid have won. Is it 103? They've won, or 100, 101, I think it is now.
Do you have your trophies from the 50s in the stadium?
Say it
Yeah,
again.
even from the bloody 30s, they've got them.
Yeah.
They got
Like
honestly
everything.
those
I
those
was
two
talking about
stadiums.
you at the Tottenham Stadium.
Oh, yeah, good trophies.
They've got
They're
the
not a lot,
Copa.
but
They've got the Copa del Real Cup there, mate. They're the Copa del Sol.
Yeah,
trophy.
they've got the Norwich Hospital trophy.
Yeah,
Mate.
but back in the day, like the push and run team, Spurs were like a generational English football team for a lot of people in like the 40s, 50s.
No, they were.
Yeah, the 40s.
Who are the
They're
only
like
team, I think, only
Egal, you can
non-league
laugh
team
all you
to win
want,
the FA
but
Cup.
I'm not
These-
laughing.
okay, you are. I see the smirk.
No, no,
These
no,
football
I'm
teams
not.
back then, we talk about eras. When you look at that era of that Tottenham fan inspired that Tottenham team, inspired like so many fans of a generation. They were that good.
I'm
No,
not gonna
that's
lie to you.
one thing, yeah,
This past
100%.
week has made me realize all you guys in the top row view me as the same way you view them.
Wait, what?
What's that got to do with
What?
our double
What does
win?
that mean?
Say it.
What does that mean?
What?
Over the
I'm
past
confused.
couple of weeks, I've realized that all the rivals like Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United fans,
Oh,
you
okay.
view Arsenal the same way you view Spurs.
I thought
That's
you meant
really like,
No,
I
personally, I'm
thought
like,
you
what?
meant
I thought
us
that
four
was
individuals
personal.
view you like we view Kate and
Yeah.
Henry, and I'm like, I didn't
Yeah.
know what it meant. But on Spurs,
Cheers
like,
for speaking for me, Egal, but that just
I,
didn't go.
yeah,
No, but you guys agree with that?
He's not wrong
No,
though.
not at all.
He's not wrong.
Pochettino, Arteta
guys,
debate.
this is what's crazy, right? Hang on a second. This is what I love about Tottenham, though, right? So this is Spurs' honors page on their website, right? And when you scroll down, right, they have on here like Football League champions that when they won the league title here, as you can see, FA Cup wins, loads of FA Cups, League Cup wins, a lot of them. You know, European Cup Winners' Cup, 2 times they won the UEFA Cup, which is amazing. But it's the other honors bit. This is legit. Right? Look. Read some of these, right? They've got the
Japan Cup winners.
the DWA Cup winners here. There is the Ipswich Hospital Charity Trophy,
Right?
right?
Don't worry about that.
The
And they
Norwich
shared it. They actually shared that.
Yeah, they
text,
shared
which
it. Yeah,
was
and
joy.
this is great. The Norwich Hospital Charity winners.
Does that
the
mean they
Japan
drew
Cup,
the final?
right?
Is that what that means?
Yeah, they've actually put a pre-season friendly one on here. The Vodacom Challenge, right? They put, where's the other one though? This is my
The Egypt
favorite.
trophy one.
Nah, this is the one.
Costa del Sol, 95, 65, 66.
The
Back to
Costa
back.
del Sol. The Costa del Sol is this is great as well. The Anglo-Italian League Cup winners. Hang on, the London Challenge Cup as well. It's almost like that's where I look at Tottenham and I do think to myself a little bit. Don't do that because a lot of them are not professional trophies or pre-season trophies or sponsors trophies, and it's like just take them off, bruv. Just
Is the
take
ID
them
Cup on there?
Teddy,
I
you
think
just
the Costa
sound
del
jealous
Sol
that
one's
Man
right
United
here.
never won the Norwich Charity Cup or whatever it was called.
Do United not have trophies like that in their trophy cabinet?
Do you know
'Cause
what?
I think Chelsea do.
Maybe on the trophy cabinet, but I don't know. Let me go and check actually on our website though. It's like on our the trophies are probably there because they've
It
won
looks
them.
worse for Spurs because their section of actual recognised trophies is so small that you get onto the list of other trophies that's like 15, 20 long. It just looks worse, doesn't it?
No, so on Man
Just a
United,
big club, aren't we?
Well, if I go to Man United's page, so what Man United do again, and I never actually looked at this before. I don't go on the website anymore. So what Man United do is Man United here. So you can see we have like the 20 league titles, 3 Champions Leagues, 13 FA Cups, 6 League Cups, Community Shields, Europa, Super Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup, the 2 Division 2s that we won, got the Women's FA Cup and the Women's Championship, and then the FA Youth Cups and the Women's Under 21s. I don't know what the PJ Cup is. But that's it. So it's
Just a golf tournament.
yeah. It's
They won the 5-a-side pre-PJ.
But yeah, it's like it's the major tournaments, right? And it's just because what you could do it like our website where you just space it out more, right?
Do you show community shields?
Yes.
21.
The
Because
English Super Cup, yes.
For us, there's literally community shields, League Cups, FA Cup, what do you call it, Premier Leagues, and then
Champions
the 2
League,
European trophies.
Champions League.
The
Yeah.
2 European trophies.
Yeah, right. You have got 2 European trophies. That is also true. I didn't realize this till I did some research into it. The one that you have that no one's heard of is what the UEFA Cup was before it was UEFA Cup. So you do have the equivalent of a Europa League UEFA Cup at Arsenal.
What was it called?
Interfair Cup.
The Interfairs Cup, yeah. It's what was
right, yeah,
before the UEFA Cup, yeah. So it's
That
one of
sounds
those
like
things-
something Tottenham would have won in the 60s, that.
No,
No,
they
it
won
was-
it.
Winning doubles,
Isn't
mate.
that the Intercity Fairs Cup? I don't think that is the same as UEFA Cup, though.
No,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
it's
it is
exactly the
either.
same.
No,
I
I
don't
looked
think it is. I thought Chelsea might have won that, you know.
No, I looked at this. Again, I only went on. Let me just look at this now again so I can get this right. Because I read this about 9 months ago. So they won the Intercity Fairs Cup. So when I clicked on it, it said here, Intercity Fairs Cup was abolished in 1971. But when you read why it was abolished, in the 1971-72 season, the competition was abolished and replaced by the UEFA Cup. So it was just, they removed it and they started something new. The same as the UEFA Cup officially was stopped in 1990. Well, they rebranded it in 1990, it's a different word, but essentially there was no UEFA Cup. They got rid of the Intercity Fairs and started the UEFA Cup. So it's
Terry, go on to Madrid quickly.
You can't have a pop at a club for not winning a trophy that didn't exist when they won it. But yeah, I get what you mean.
Nah,
It just
true.
it was the
I don't think that we have. anything
You've
else
got
except
a
for, like,
number
the league
15. You click
on
on the
it.
15 Champions League and you scroll down fucking ages.
really. Let's have a
Yeah,
let me
like,
let
I
me
don't
look
think
at
that we
Six
have like any
league
of like
titles.
I'm saying I don't think that we have like preseason stuff listed.
Oh wow!
I would be very surprised.
There's
Yeah,
no,
you have got
there's
pre-season,
just there's no way you would do it. It's just there's no way if Real Madrid do it, Standard FC are going to be in the bin, mate.
What's
That Madrid
what's a
Museum
Latin
is a
Cup?
joke, by the way.
Let's look at Madrid here for a minute. So yeah, as you can see, so 15. The fact you have your Champions League at the top is great as well, right? So I didn't realize you had a big basketball team as well. I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
15
Basketball team's
Champions,
huge.
15 Champions Leagues, right? That's what's crazy. They've got more Champions League than any English side have got FA Cups. That's mad.
Do you know what's the hardest trophy to win at Real Madrid?
26 leagues.
Copa del Rey, isn't it? You
Copa
don't
del
win that
Rey.
lot.
I've only seen us win it one time in the 10 years that I've been watching. Like,
Look
But
at
no,
this
you've got-
thing.
you've
I'll
got-
tell
you've
you
got
what,
to-
Will, you chose well, mate. Look at all these trophies.
I know. Isn't it weird? He started watching football 10 years ago. He fucking picked well, didn't he? Picking Real Madrid. I tell you.
James Rodriguez, the GOAT.
Yeah.
How many Champions Leagues have you seen in like the?
I
Seven.
seen so Juve,
Five?
Liverpool twice. I seen like five.
Is that more than all of us? No, not more than Liverpool actually. Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna
no,
say,
it's
is it
more
the
than
rest
any.
of us
It's
combined?
more than any of us have seen our clubs win in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like Liverpool got 6, but Tom's only seen 2 of them.
Mhm.
I've seen 2 Champions Leagues, and you've seen 2. That's
Yeah.
it. We've all seen 2 each, and then there's Will on 5, and then we've got the North London mob. We've seen 2 finals between them. So yeah, it's. Have you ever seen that skit between a award ceremony between Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, where Ryan Gosling's like, "Listen, we're behaving badly for 2 men. We've got 2 Oscars between us, and we should behave better. And Russell Crowe's like, you don't have any Oscars. And he goes, I know, but between two of us, there's two. That's like Spurs and Arsenal with the rest of us on Champions League. Oh, look, there's like 23 Champions Leagues here between us all. It's one of them. Let's do some more of these super chats because we're going to run out of time today. I'm loving this chat. La Liga filing charges against City. Yeah, I've been reading that. I'm not going to delve into it in any more detail on here because it's a story that I've got to read a little more of. But they've filed a complaint with the European Commission, who are investigating it. So, and I don't even
three
think
parades this year. 3 parades this year. Go on.
Wait, like Terry, just real quick. I know you said that you don't want to talk about it, but just quick question: is it about that defender that they signed in January from Valladolid?
No, I think it's more based on. I've only read like a paragraph that's on a tweet, so I need to read more. But remember, the European Commission is not like UEFA. It's like they run Europe. They're essentially saying that City are hiding money in multiple shell companies and football clubs to essentially build this dynasty, which they believe is against the rules, etc. And the La Liga
Girona is in La Liga, so that's interesting because City Group owned Girona.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that sort of stuff. So again, I can't pass comment on it because I haven't read the article.
I get 3 parades this year then. I'm gonna have 3.
Community Shields equal Audi Cup equal Summer Series. Community Shields are bigger than an Audi Cup, I believe, because you've got to win something to get into that. Generally, everybody needs a striker. Madrid have a prodigy striker on the bench on 400 minutes, who only has 5 less goals than Yamal, who played all the games. Oh, is that what's his name? Endrick.
He scored last night, didn't he?
Did he? There we go.
I heard you guys were going to loan him out. What happened to that?
Yeah, aren't Leverkusen going to get him or something for a year online?
Maybe. Guys, let me get through these super chats, please. Sorry, guys, just because otherwise we're not going to get onto the big Arsenal subject, which I know everyone wants to debate. This here says GOAT debate should be era-based. The 2010s surely is Hazard. The 20s is. So I don't know if it should be done in decades. I think it should be a longer. I would split the Premier League into sort of 2 15, 16-year blocks personally. But
even if we were doing decades, 2010s is not Hazard, it's Aguero, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because he was there the entire time.
Yeah, good shout. But yeah, it should definitely be era-based. There's no doubt about that. It's irrelevant, Salah's time at Chelsea, but does Hazard's Real Madrid time stint relevant? It's always Liverpool fans, Salah fans, get back on Hazard. Well, it won't impact his. He's not in the Premier. He's not in the Premier League, is he? You know, because if we're going to go by what happened in Real Madrid, God's will, I'm up for that because that just means there's no debate. It just means Cristiano Ronaldo is the greatest ever Premier League player. So I'm up for what you're suggesting, Will, but it would go against my own principles, which I'm not going to do. What's the Salah equivalent of Henry's solo goal versus Liverpool and Spurs? I swear I see Henry pick the ball up once against Tottenham and dribble for the whole fucking team and score.
Yeah. Salah's got that goal though, hasn't he? Salah's got that goal.
We've got the City one.
Yeah, Salah's got that goal against City.
Henry's also got.
Henry did it versus Real Madrid at the Bernabeu.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I'm not. Yeah, but that is the question was what's Salah's equivalent, and he has got that goal. He's got the City goal.
Salah's got the City goal.
I misread that. I thought it was Salah's goals against those teams. Salah does have that. For me, Henry's best goal in the Premier League, for me, actually, was what he did against Man United, where he just flicked and volleyed it. It's just ridiculous. That hurt so much, that goal. It ain't a diss to say Salah is the greatest stats man. I don't care why Liverpool fans get so rattled when players and other fans say they prefer others like Hazard, Rooney, or Henry. So fair, Miki, is a fair point there. Cam, I said the same thing. We finished second and third, scored a bunch of goals, and that was the last time we were in the conversation to compete for the league. Now look at us. That's obviously about Man United earlier on. And I'm sure
some of your fans owe Jose an apology. He wasn't lying when he said
but to be fair, we weren't in the conversation. Like, as a United fan, like, we knew we were finishing second, but we knew the gap was too big. We were not like Terry. I'm remembering this correctly.
No, but Jose said it's the best accomplishment he ever had in his career.
I mean, be honest with you, Egal, Man United fans had that conversation about 5 years ago about Jose was right about that. This here says the fact that Jamie Carragher doesn't even know what he's saying is problematic is beyond me. All he needed to do was apologize and it would be under the carpet. Also, Terry, what is the one piece of advice when it comes to dating. I mean, one piece of advice.
Don't be yourself.
No, that's what an Essex boy like Henry would say. Absolutely.
I'm telling that to you.
Well, okay, great. Brilliant. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I won't be myself. I'm trying to think of like a good bit of advice for dating. Like nothing stupid, like shower. Of course, have a shower, maybe twice. You know what I mean? Get yourself clean. I would say.
Be honest.
I would say be honest, right? I would say be honest, but also pick the first date wisely. I'll tell you as to why.
Don't go to the cinema.
Yeah, cinema because you can't talk or anything, right? But I had a friend, right? I had a friend who decided last night he was taking a girl out on a date. He's a Spurs fan, and he met her, and their first date was going to watch Tottenham play City. And she doesn't like football, never watched it before, and she turned up in a dress. You know where she was going.
Oh my!
And he took her to the just don't do that. So she was literally wearing a dress and high heels, and he went, "Yeah, I've done her up like a bit of a kipper," because she said she was a practical joker. And that was the first date. I'm like, bro, I don't think that's going to go down well, my G. So, yeah, don't do nothing like that. That's a good bit of advice for you. Henry versus Salah is a silly argument. It's like asking who is the best mother in the world. It's always my mother. Depends on the mother, mate, to be honest. Stats alone are not everything. Listen, I hear you, but it's worth having a conversation.
I didn't realise we had stats for mothers.
Only got 4 cuddles a week. Oh, no. John Obi Mikel absolutely bodied Jamie on AFCON. Yeah, he went in on him today, which was I thought quite good to see. Gerrard is the best English player of all time. He's not better than Sir Bobby Charlton, so I disagree with you on that one. Speaking of disagreements, I'm sure this is going to spark a bit of a conversation about this, but Arsenal are on the edge of signing a new sporting director to take over the transfer element of the club, which I think most of us would probably agree is massively needed at Arsenal after a poor summer, an abysmal January that's now led to their season ending early from a Premier League perspective. But a question I want to throw out there, and I'm actually going to go to Will first on this. With the new sporting director, should Mikel Arteta be backed, or is it time now to sack and move on?
I think he should be sacked, but we know that he's not going to go anywhere. So I think he will be backed, logically speaking. But yeah, I think Arteta, he should be sacked at Arsenal. I think that aside from the FA Cup that he won in the first half of the second half of the season, but his first 6 months at the club, it's been a relative failure. I think he's done a good job in terms of building up the squad, right? Like he made that defense what it is, right? The midfield solid, the attack is pretty mediocre, but he has gotten them to a place where they should be winning trophies and they should be doing a lot better to get over the line. And I think maybe you could look at Arteta as like that caretaker manager who just sorts things out, but then now you go and get somebody that's actually proven, somebody that actually has a track record. But yeah, I just think, look, if the old kind of like regime of like the board is kind of going out, I just feel like the manager should as well, because it means that things aren't working out. But who knows? I think now with them bringing in a new sporting director, though, I kind of do think that Arsenal are going to make like a very big signing, because he's going to want to make a good first impression in the summer window. He's going to want to get the fans on side and things like that. But I just don't think that Arteta will ever be the manager to get Arsenal their next Premier League trophy. I just think that he's shown us that he can't get it done. And it seems like he needs perfect conditions to win something. And if that's the case, then he's never going to win anything, because nothing's ever going to be perfect. So yeah, he should be sacked. He should never got the job. Like Arsenal should never be your first full-time managerial role anyways. It's too big of a club. So I would sack him, but that's just me.
I'm pretty sure Zidane got his first full-time job at Real Madrid.
Yeah, but that's a little bit different.
So.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, but that's a lot different, because he had like a Ronaldo, Bale, Sergio Ramos, like, so he had these players that, because if you ask any Real Madrid fan, Zidane was not a tactician like that. He didn't really have to do much. He's organizing them in the 11, but then he's kind of giving them the freedom. Whereas at Arsenal, you needed somebody to give a lot more. Arteta has given structure.
Didn't Zidane also have a job before? He was Real Madrid B team manager for 2 years as well.
Yeah.
So he obviously proved that he was going to be in the line for that job.
Yeah, so he managed the academy, and then he was the assistant
No, but he followed this. That's what Pep did, Egal. Pep got the Barcelona B job, proved that he'd be the right man to step forward into the first team and sort of carry that on. That's what Zidane proved. Arteta walked in through the door at Arsenal without having any experience.
He was an assistant coach.
Points contradict themselves.
And
Arteta seeing
there's a lot of
being an assistant coach and watching Man City and seeing what they're doing
because the
that does
pressure
help
is
your development as a coach.
The pressure is completely removed as an assistant.
What pressure is there to be a B team coach where you can get sacked tomorrow, where you could leave tomorrow?
Well, if you fail at the B team, you're not going to get the first team job, are you?
I know, but if you don't get one second, there is different. One thing I want to acknowledge is I acknowledge that Arteta, this is his first big job, and it is crazy to give somebody their first big job at a big club. But things have changed, guys. Understand that there's a new era of management, new era of coaching, and this is kind of how things have been for the last couple of years. We've seen Xavi go into positions. We've seen other players go into positions without having major experience. Having experience as an assistant coach, having experience as a B team coach, whatever it is, this is a new generation of coaches. You're not going to have a lot of these coaches coming from Porto and coming from all these other teams and coming into your team in a big club. Now, Feyenoord to Liverpool is a big move for Arne Slot, and that's the most recent one where I've seen like that kind of success happen recently. But majority
anyone interviewing Arne Slot,
majority of the moves, majority of the
successful
successful managers recently, if I'm not mistaken, are the new generation coming up. And now you're going to see different types of management.
What doesn't help Egal though is
look at Xavi.
Guys, listen, I'll be honest with you. It's great we're debating whether or not he should or shouldn't have got the job in the first place, but we're 5 years in. I feel it's a little bit of a futile conversation. The reason I say that is because the big debate amongst Arsenal fans, and I want to throw it out to you on the top six panel and the viewers of the Football Terrace, is they're going to get a new sporting director. I agree with Will. It looks like they're doing that, and then they're going to spend some money again this summer. Should that be with, and I'm going to Tom on this before I get Egal's opinion, should that be with Mikel Arteta leading as the head coach, as the manager, or should they also look to bring somebody else new in? Should they back him or sack him? What's your opinion?
I mean, I think it should be with him as the head coach, because ultimately, if you bring in a sporting director, you're signing players for the club, not for the manager. So this would be your test to see whether he is the right guy for what you want to do. You give him a year. You know, he's got enough in the last couple of years to earn one more year under a new sporting director and going the Arsenal way. The big concern I had, and the big concern that I would have with the sporting director, just didn't get, whilst I don't know who it is, until he's announced. If Arteta's got a lot of power in regards to the transfers, then it could be a dangerous thing to keep him on board, because then you're not building an Arsenal team, you're building a Mikel Arteta team. And then when you get rid of him, it's harder to bring in a new manager to replace him, because they're not taking a squad which has a playing idea, they're taking a squad which is built around the manager's ideologies. So unless you bring in another manager with the same ideologies, which the reason you moved away from the manager was the ideologies, you're going to be stuck in a rut. So if the sporting director's coming in and he's signing players for Arsenal, who will be there before or after, they're not signing them based on Mikel Arteta's recommendations, I think he gets another year. But if the sporting director is going to be coming in and basically just being a glorified negotiator and buying whoever the manager wants, whatever demands the manager asks, you know, that side of the thing, then I think that's a flawed system, and it's probably best if Arteta moved on. But I think Arsenal are a smart football club that they've seen what is successful from other top clubs. I think this sporting director will be coming in to buy players for Arsenal, for the long-term future of Arsenal, so Arteta's probably got one more year in him. If he doesn't win next year, I think that's it. I think you've used up all the rope you've got. I think it's time then to move on.
All right, just to give you guys a heads up, the 5 people is the guy at Monaco, the guy who just left Sociedad, the Atletico Madrid director who's about to leave. I don't know how to pronounce some of these guys' names.
I get you.
Dan Ashworth and the interim DOF currently, Jason Eto'o. Now, I don't want Jason Eto'o to get the job. I don't think he has the gravitas to get that job and make things happen. Next, when it comes to Dan Ashworth, I don't know what the situation was at Manchester United or how that situation ended up going to the way where it did, where he ended up getting fired or leaving. But I would prefer to go for somebody like the Atletico Madrid, the Atletico Madrid DOF, who's going to be leaving in December, January, try to get who left in December, January. He's available. He's already won things with them, and he's been able to compete with the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona in that league where let's be honest, Atletico Madrid have less resources than those two clubs. So that might be a good shout. And then next after that, I would go for the guy from Sociedad. He's been able to bring through some quality players to Sociedad.
That's the doubt I'd have though, because that seems like a very Arteta-driven appointment. You know,
regardless what happens, whoever comes in, I need it to be somebody who has the authority to tell the people in charge this needs to happen, because I feel like Edu, him leaving, I can clearly see that he wanted some Brazilian players like Bruno Guimaraes. He never pushed through some of these signings. He did not have all the control, as much control as I thought he did. And right now, as much as you guys want to stick it on Arteta, I don't think he has as much control as we think he does either. Whoever comes in, what the main priority is, if you're going to bring in a director of football, let them direct the football. Don't cut their legs off and tell them you can't sign a player because he's 15 million over, 16 million too much. That's ridiculous. If you're going to set yourself back a couple of years, what's the whole point of even having these people in charge in the first place? Hire people, trust them, get them to get the job done, and let these lawyers and these bankers out the fucking club, because it's so annoying. When we could have had Isaac, we could have had Bruno Guimaraes, we could have had all these other great players come to this club years ago, but we constantly let ourselves down because we don't want to spend 10 million, 15 million, 16 million more than what it costs to get that player. And these are facts. If you guys go back to athletic reports from a couple years ago, how many of these guys did we just let them go because of that?
So, Gal, I think the point you make there is fair, because I'm on the side of I wouldn't sack him. I think Arteta overachieved heavily. Like Will, I think your example of Zidane had a way easier job. Like at the end of the day, the Arsenal team was nowhere near as good. I think when you're somebody like Zidane who commands respect or whatever, and you have that team, like
there's a lot more pressure at Madrid though than there is.
There is, but he's a World Cup winner. He's one of the best players we've ever seen.
Brought up
pressure for him doesn't really. Somebody like that, pressure doesn't really hit. There's certain people in the world that are just exceptional people, and Zidane's probably one of those people who, like, he walked into that job head high. I can just control the room. Everybody looks at him like, you're fucking one of our goats. We love you. It's very different than Arteta having to completely rebuild an ethos, everything. He had to completely, from bare bones, build it up to nothing. So now, I think the only reason I would not keep him is if it came out, Nadal, you would know more than I would, if it came out that this whole not needing a striker, this whole like not going after like big players, if that came out where Arteta was like, no, I can do it without. No, I don't need this. If that comes out that was the case, then yeah, you get rid of him, because then he doesn't know what he's doing. But if it comes out that he's like, I told y'all to get Isaac years ago, and you just keep giving me midfielders. If that comes out, which I don't know if it's true, then that's when you have to be like, okay, let's give this guy one more shot with the DOF. We can get something done. But I don't think he deserves more than like one more year. And I will say this again, I think he's overachieved. I do think you should have won some trophies, but because the way you guys decided to not care about the smaller cups, it hurt you. You say it all the time, and I agree fully. You win more than that one FA Cup. Sorry, you win like another League Cup here, an FA Cup there. Everybody's completely chill on Arteta because he's showing he can win some things. But because that hasn't happened, now all the pressure is on winning a league, going up against some of the best managers we've ever seen, realistically, with a team that's pretty young and not ready for it. So I say give him another year with this.
But how can you say that he massively overachieved when he spent over 700 million?
Remember how bad they were?
Look at Chelsea. They spent double that.
Arsenal wasn't even the top.
Yeah, but but Chelsea have sacked their managers. That's the difference.
No, but Tottenham also spent a lot of money. Manchester United spent money.
They sacked their manager.
Will. But on your point, though, this is what I would say, and this is, I'm not aiming this at you. I'm talking in general here.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I would say they have maybe massively overachieved is a stretch. The language is important, I suppose. But the year they got into the title race, the idea of that was laughed at. Then it was and it's interesting watching the overlap today, and they're talking about how, or stick to football, I think Arsenal were peaked. I don't think Arsenal can get any better. Fair opinion. But that was the same podcast who in 2002 said coming fifth is Arsenal's ceiling. Then they got into a title race that nobody expected. Then everybody said they wouldn't do it 2 years running, and they did. Now they've got into a title race 3 years running. Their failed investment in the summer and January has let them down. There's no doubt. So if 3 years running, people have said they've peaked and they're going to fall off, and they haven't. By that definition alone, they have overachieved the expectation of the general football fan. Well, they have to. If you say Man United are coming 8th and we come 2nd, that's an overachievement. By definition.
Yeah, but I feel like the word overachievement, I feel like there's a different word than to use, because overachieving means that then he would have won despite everybody not believing that he would. I just can't see how spending that much
again.
money
So
and
again,
not having that much.
we can have a debate about semantics. Let's just say
performed expectations.
We can beat expectations or did better than expected. You know, we can rephrase it. I'm not precious about the wording, but I do find it interesting that people saying that he's completely fouled are also people that predicted him to do a lot worse than he's done. But that seems to make those individuals more angry as opposed to more balanced, which you would expect it to do. And I feel like the whole conversation, and I'm going to get Egal's opinion in a minute, is I actually think if they could find a better manager this summer, and I don't know who the better manager is. There could be someone like a Slot that I'm not aware of who is better. I'll bow down to everybody's superior knowledge. If it turns out that they could go and get Zidane today, or they could get Pep, or they could get Klopp, or they could get Alonso, because I rate those managers, I'm talking subjectively, then I would probably look to move Arteta on and go for someone that's won those major trophies, got over that line. At the same time, I'm only going on my own knowledge here. Would I risk it with a manager that's not managed in the Prem before, not won any major trophies before? I probably wouldn't at this point. You've got to get that right. And there's the whole, can you attract them? Listen, Diego Simeone, if you could get Simeone, I would bring him in. But can you get Diego Simeone? I might upset Arsenal fans when I say this. I don't think you've got the facilities for that. I don't think he would say yes to managing Arsenal. So those kind of conversations become a little bit mooted for me because you're not doing it. You're not bringing those people in. But Egal, there's a lot of Arsenal fans online that want him gone, that want him out. Do you think that's premature? Do you think that would stop Arsenal from dominating the years ahead?
You see my video. Terry,
Yeah.
I think it would be silly to get rid of Arteta at this moment in time. I think people have to just look at the season and say to yourself, we look at the cards that we've been dealt and look at the situation we're in. I think actually Arteta deserves a lot more credit for keeping us competitive even through adversity with the yellow card, the red cards, the injuries that we've had and everything else. And right now the board let him down. And when it comes to backing, Arteta should be backed this summer to get him the forward players that he needs to get this team sorted. We have the defense, we have the midfield, we're toothless up front. You go and get us some forwards, you go to some players that can get us more goals. We don't have to rely on Kai Havertz. We don't have to rely on Martinelli as much. Bukayo Saka, hopefully he comes back as good as he always has been. And we go again next season. And I know people are going to say Netflix FC, this and that, but the reality is just as much as there's unknown about what we are going to do in our summer, there's just as much unknown with Manchester City. There's just as much unknown with Liverpool. And it's going to be a big summer for all three of us. So people who are writing us off, you rid us off the last 2 summers. You rid us off the last 2 summers saying we're not going to compete again. And I expect us to compete again. And I expect us to get that forward line sorted and that to get us over the line. Because I believe in the manager and I believe in a lot of these players.
So Egal, if you go out and get the striker, let's say, I don't know, you go out and get a Sesko and a Nico Williams and you bring in Zubimendi.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get over the line, then would you be prepared to turn around and say, we need another manager? Let's say Inzaghi leaves Inter Milan after winning 4 Scudettos.
There'll be
a manager that you could get out of his contract.
Okay.
Would you be
honestly
prepared at that point to go to another manager?
I honestly think this is where the excuses end with Arteta because he has built his defense. He's built his midfield. We're giving him an opportunity to finally build out an attack. If he builds out an attack and he still fails, I don't think there can be any more excuses at that point.
But
because at that point we have a team that we've built on every single phase and we've invested in every single phase of the team. And at that point, it's the players that we brought in as if the players that we brought in do not hit the ground running or there's issues, you still have players that have competed in the league for the last couple of years that are still in the team that can get us.
Can I ask you a question, Egal, on that? Can I ask you a question on that though?
Yeah.
Because you sort of said last year that if he doesn't win the league and if Slot wins it ahead of him, then you would say he has to go. And things change. What if next season the signings aren't. You don't think the signings are good enough. The director of football didn't do a good enough job of signing the best players. Are you going to kick the can again with Arteta? What would it take for you to change your mind again? What is it that it would make you? I kind of get, if you sign no one this summer, then fair enough. But if you do get Zubimendi and you do get, I don't know, Osimhen or Šeško, and you get Nico Williams, what would the excuse be to push back again if Arteta still doesn't win you any trophies?
Terry, if we don't win next season, I'm more concerned about players staying at the club. Forget about the manager alone, because in that situation, we're going to have to show some of these guys that this is a place where they need to stay and they can win. And if the manager does end up leaving, I think a lot of these players will also have their heads turned and look at the team and say, you know what? If they lost faith in him, I lost faith in this team. And I don't think a lot of these players, if Arteta was sacked today, they're going to still be here. But if come next season we don't win again and Arteta's out the door, what belief are some of these guys going to have that we're going to get it right with the next appointment and they're going to stay on board?
But could that not go the other way, Egal, where if you get to next year, you don't win anything, and then Arteta stays on again, these players go, why are we sticking by a manager who has shown no ability to get over the line?
I think majority of the players and the people running the club believe in this manager and believe in this team.
But
Now some of the fans might be disappointed. Some of the fans might be disappointed in pushing a lot of blame onto him, but I think it's unfair and unjust. We've been dealt some very difficult cards this season, and I think we've done quite well for what we've
Gal, can I talk for 1 second? Because you're my bro, and I think you make really good points. I think some people come down hard on you unnecessarily sometimes. This is where you lose even me, who can be, as real as possible with you right now. Stop talking about all the shit that affects all of our teams. You got to stop it. No, it kills your credibility. Listen,
it's not only me.
Egal, let Cam go, please. Let Cam speak.
I don't care what BBC says. I don't care whatever. We all have different opinions. I listen to Roy Keane slag our team off all the time. I don't just go parrot what he says. You got to stop bringing up the cards we were dealt. It is the worst argument you had. You're on point when you talk about we didn't invest in January. Cool. That's a good point. But the moment you start talking about injuries, I'm sorry, Spurs were missing half their team all year. We just lost 3 of our only good players. Liverpool didn't have their only clinical player. Well, Gakpo showed it this year outside of Salah for half of the year. They lost the best goalkeeper in the league. Like every one of our teams, I could go down the list. Real Madrid, they had some serious injury issues going down. I could go across the board, like Chelsea. I don't know about Chelsea as much, but the rest of our teams have had.
City have been without the Ballon d'Or winner for the entire season.
Without the Ballon d'Or winner, they've been without John Stones. Like we could go down the list on all of our teams. Great managers, great teams win through this adversity, and it happens through every year. If you go through every team that's won it, sometimes yes, they have a clean bill of health, but most of the time there is something where you could point. Like when we won the Europa League, we had Pogba on his crutches and Zlatan on the sidelines.
You had your whole team on crutches. I know.
I'm just trying to say, like, we had players on the sideline who we would have technically back then absolutely needed to win these trophies, and we did it anyway. So you got to stop saying that shit because it just discredits everything. It kills you.
Cam, I agree. There is injuries, and you have to manage injuries.
It's not just injuries. You talk about yellow cards.
I get that. 1 second. I get that. But when you have a team lose Saka, Havertz, Martinelli, Jesus, all around the same time, it is going to be extremely difficult. 1 second. Any team out of Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, who've been competing for the last couple of years, if they lose 4 out of their 6 attacking players, and their next best piece is are scraps, they're going to struggle to score goals. Now, if you want to talk about the other issues, and you're saying I'm making excuses, bro, say whatever you want to say. I'm gonna die on this hill. This season, Liverpool have been great, and that is true. But at the same time, they have not faced the same level of adversity as Arsenal or Manchester City. That is just a fact.
Wait, so Egal,
or
question,
maybe
bro.
we just dealt with our adversity better.
Wait, so
or you could say that, but at the same time, you've not had the same level of injuries.
They had Endo as their GM and said, Gravenberch, can you do the job? Like, you have to understand.
Can I ask you a question then? If Ange Postecoglou wins the Europa League this season, with the amount of injuries you've had, would you give a lot more respect to him?
Yes.
Because we've had more injuries than you. We haven't even had a backline.
At the same time, At the same time, I'm talking about a league campaign, bro. It's a lot different to having your players come back and be available in the knockout stages.
Yeah, but bearing in mind we've played for
We're-
16 league games without a defense.
I understand
we
that,
had to
bro.
play
We're
Archie Gray at
talking,
centre-back.
we're talking about the Premier League. We're not comparing the Premier League to Europa League. Let's not do that. We're talking
Okay,
about a
but
38
so
game
if we
season,
finish, if we
one of
get in
the
the
best
top
leagues
8,
in the
top 10
world,
and win the Europa League,
bro.
the same
Respectfully,
argument was
I
invalid.
played kids. I played kids
We're
in the
playing
Europa
kids.
League. I played kids in the Europa League when my team was shit, and we still got through a lot of those games. No disrespect
Okay,
to the
Gal,
Europa League.
we've just fielded the youngest. I think was it against Man City or the game before was the youngest, second youngest Premier League side.
But
We
I'm
played
saying
5 18-year-olds.
Tottenham getting through the Europa League group stages should not be a problem.
Okay, what if he wins it?
Let's not compare the Europa League to the Premier League. Let's not do that. Let's not do that because your same manager with those injuries has you in mid-table, low relegation battle type zones with those same injuries. The Europa League and the Premier League is two different completely different things. Let's not disrespect the Premier League.
I hear you guys on that. Kate, we haven't heard from you on this conversation before we go to the super chats. A lot of Arsenal fans want him gone. They want a new manager. Some say they should be sticking with him. If you're Stan Kroenke, you're Josh Kroenke, you're looking at a new sporting director, what do you do? Is it back him, spend the money, one last season, or do you think now is the time to say adios, amigo?
Well, if all the fans are like Egal, I'd keep him and I wouldn't even bother backing him because excuses FC, this guy can get away with murder. I mean, I saw Egal say this is the 21st of February and everyone's terrified because Arsenal are going to start dominating everything. So we will wait with bated breath. Look, I hope they keep him and don't back him. And it just carries on regardless. And we have Egal sitting here waffling for 10 straight minutes about how terrible their season's been.
Please let Kate finish, Egal, for a second, please. Thank you.
I just want to rebuttal. If they don't,
but you can rebuttal when she's finished, please. I'll come to you next, Egal, please. Thank you.
For Arsenal fans to sit there and cry about injuries when all we've been told all season is you can't use injuries as an excuse. Every team gets injuries. And then we've got him crying like a little girl that Arsenal have got a couple of injuries is beyond me. Look, for me, for Arsenal fans that I've known that are grown-ups and that have been supporting Arsenal for a long time, they want him gone because they're used to having a successful team. For fans like Egal, who are social media fans, a lot of social media fans are quite happy to have this drivel where they win nothing. So I'm not an Arsenal fan. In fact, I hope Arteta stays there forever. But if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be demanding he goes because he can't. He's had 5-6 years, and so what? You don't get a trophy for finish second, and yeah, you're without Saka. But we could all see it coming with your striker situation. Everyone could see it coming, but you didn't get a striker. You know, this guy. Yeah, for me, I hope he stays. But if I was an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't be sitting here defending him at all. I'd want him gone.
I'll let you rebuttal Egal, and then I'm going to go to super chats. Go on, mate.
You know what? To call me a social media fan is kind of interesting. Second of all, because I do a lot of content. Anyways, I've been supporting the team since '98, so I've seen a lot of success. Let's not act like I haven't seen success. I'm not one of these guys who came in 2014 and never seen the team win any league titles. So I understand what it is, what these teams that have won league titles. I've seen the adversity the Invincibles went through and still won league titles. So I get what it takes to win. As for why I still support this manager, he's the only person I believe at this team. At the board level, I'm disillusioned by a lot of these people. I don't believe in them. I don't trust in them. I believe the manager is this one guy who's pushing this team forward. Edu's gone. He was one of these guys who's in the team that I felt like was holding us back. The majority of the people in the back room are lawyers and don't really have that much experience. So when I look at this team, I believe in that manager, and I think if he does not get a striker or a left winger this summer, he should just resign and forget about this whole team because at this point it's ridiculous. How can you not get him the attacking pieces that he needs to go get us this league title when he's been trying his best with the attacking players that he has to disposal for the last 2 years and getting us up there as one of the top goal scorers and up there challenging for the league titles with Kai Havertz, Martinelli, and Bukayo Saka as our leading men.
But Ego, if you've seen Arsenal win, how are you still backing this guy? How?
Because I believe in the manager. Unlike
why,
other people.
Why? Just tell me why.
The main reason why I believe in the manager, because he's been able to build the team from the back up. And I think the final piece to the puzzle is to finally get those forward pieces to get you the goals. We have the defense that can get you the challenge. We're missing the goals that can win you the games. We get those goals.
Forwards.
You
No,
got
we haven't. We bought Jesus and Trossard.
Believe in
And
your
Havertz.
goals.
Kai Havertz was not bought as a forward. He was bought originally as a midfielder.
Mm.
So if you guys tell me goals win you games, we're missing goals in this team.
Egal, let me ask you a very direct question before we do the super chats. Do you still wholeheartedly believe Arteta is good enough to get you over the line and win you a Premier League and or a Champions League? Do you still think he's good enough to do that in your personal opinion?
I think with the 2 past years where we challenged, he's proven that. And he hasn't gone over the line because of individual pieces. Now, you take Arne Slot, put him in our Arsenal team, and you put Arteta in Liverpool's team, Arteta wins the league with Liverpool also. You take Arteta, put him in any of the title challenging team, he wins the league. It's not Arteta's not the problem. It's the personnel that he has to disposal. And for him to even have this personnel challenging in this position, respect to him.
Okay, listen, viewers, I'd love to get your thoughts and opinions on what's been said by the panel regarding the thing with Mikel Arteta. I'm going to go to your super chats and comments now. Hashtag Danny says, if Kate's logic applies to Spurs, they'll have no fans. But logic was they saw the winning, so there's a little difference. I'm sorry, Arteta has disappointed this season. When Odegaard was injured, it was Arteta who chose not to play Ethan and drop points. He overplayed Saka and bottled the EFL Cup and FA Cup with a fully fit squad. What Zane says here.
They were never fully fit. What are you talking about?
As an Arsenal fan, thanks for calling this out, Cam. Egal is talking excuses like Teta in the press conferences, is what Gaza says here. When Saka was fit, Arsenal spent 0 days in first and was 6 points behind. Couldn't do it when he was fit.
That's a funny little stat from this season. United spent more days on top of the league than Arsenal have.
Tell me how many days Mo Salah missed. Tell me how many days Mo Salah missed.
He missed 7 weeks last season.
No, what did he miss this season? You tell me that.
But weren't Arsenal last season though?
So it's my fault. My player knows not to look after himself. My management team knows to look after himself.
No, this is actually a dishonest conversation you guys are having, because immediately you jump to excuses. But is it an excuse when we say that their best players, 7 out of their 11 players have been available? Arsenal have only had 2.
Gal, you're somebody who was big on the Ramsdale Riot thing. How important are goalkeepers to a team?
Sorry?
How important is the goalkeeper position to a team to win stuff?
Goalkeeper is very important.
On Riot and Ramsdale. Answer the question. How important are they?
My point is they've had 7 out of their 11 starters available for every game.
Egal. So that holds some water in my opinion. And when you've lost 4 of your main attackers, I get the frustration. What I think you can't overlook, though, and this is about the balance in conversation, I think the Arteta outers are often too harsh and blinded. I think you're being blinded a little bit too. Because up until Saka went out, and then you've lost all, and then Kai Havertz went out, and then Martinelli went out, and whatever order it went in, Jesus, you weren't playing great football in the first half of the season. You were dropping points in games in the first half of the campaign. Yes, there were a couple of red cards that we'll probably never see again. There were a couple that I think were deserved. Saliba's as an example, and even with Trossard's, like he didn't need to boot the ball away that hard. You maybe see that game through. So I think it's just balance. I think you can look at I think there'd be more sympathy towards you, in your opinion, around those injuries if you also acknowledged that there were mistakes made by Arteta in terms of team selection, in terms of the way you played football. I think there is definitely some validity in maybe Arteta being a little bit too pragmatic at times this year. And I think that's the issue with this conversation. I think with people that staunch believers in him versus people that want him gone, is that there's never any kind of open-mindedness to these situations. And of course, losing 4 of your main attackers is bad, but I don't think that should mask the actual areas that need to be improved and focused on as well.
But wasn't Arsenal fully fit?
One more thing.
Last season?
Mo Salah this season has 60% of Liverpool's output when it comes to goals. Yeah. So you're telling me if they miss Mo Salah for the same amount of time that we missed either Odegaard or Saka, would they be in the same position? If they lost Van Dijk for the same time that we lost either Saka
It's
or
like some
Odegaard,
monkey-
would they be in the same position?
But Egal, we did miss Salah for 2 months last year, and we didn't actually
Did
lose
you
a
miss
game
him
in that
this
period of
year?
time.
And they still won.
Why do
some.
you keep mentioning last year?
Because I
Did you
can't
miss
go
him
on
this
about
year?
what could have happened this year. I don't know what could have happened this year.
No, my point is,
Yeah.
this is a major factor in why you guys are winning and why we aren't.
Of course, it plays a part. The point people are making, by and large, is that can be discussed, but you can't overlook the mistakes that have been made as well. It's about having an honest conversation. I'm going to run out of time if I don't get through these super chats. Sorry, I've got to get through them before the end of the show. This here says analyzing on Arsenal is so retarded, man. Go on, Egal. That's him backing you, I think. Liverpool have proven this season, as long as your squad is good enough, a manager like Klopp can be replaced. Well, I think your manager, I also think Slot's very, very good. Arteta is nothing compared to Klopp. Arsenal can compete without Arteta. That's a fair point. I feel sorry for Egal, Ty. This is his brother in delusion. Kate, you got me hot with your cooking of Egal. That's from her husband, who is very, very hot for that. Stu, when I was talking earlier about Arsenal replacing the manager, and he said, with just like Slot, yeah, I didn't know how Slot good was. And if the Arsenal board have found a manager that's better than Arteta, go and get him. I can't give an opinion about a manager being better than Arteta if I don't know he is, though.
Would you trust the board that you don't even trust in the first place?
No, that's a fair point as well. People that don't trust the Kroenke, don't like Stan, don't like Josh, don't like the sporting directors. The fact they're advocating for those people to go and pick them a new manager as well. We went through this at Man United for years. It was just how are we trusting Ed Woodward to get it right for a fourth time? Yeah, I totally get that. Egal, which lawyer and accountant at the club pushed the 65 million Kai Havertz signing? So that was definitely Arteta.
The same ones that told him he couldn't get Isaac for the same price 2 years ago.
Give Diego Simeone this Arsenal defense, and he wins more trophies than Mikel, at least cup-wise. Does the panel agree?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we all agree. I think we all agree on that one.
Conversations are so unfair, though. He's not available.
Yeah. I was strong Arteta in at the start of the season because until last season, it was progression in the league. But this season, it has definitely been a regression. Mark Smith here says, come on, Terry, you were hounding Pochau after 5 years because he didn't win. Arteta should be the same. Well, Arteta won an FA Cup, so there's a trophy in there. But what did I say? I've said if they can find a better manager, then replace him. And that's just me being balanced about the conversation. Equally, when it came to removing Poch, what did I say? And I've said it for years. If you're going to replace him, it has to be someone that's better than him that can get you over the line and has a similar style of football and wants the profiles. I thought it was wrong that you went to Jose Mourinho because it was a different way of playing. So it wasn't about Poch being bad. It was about maybe someone else getting you to that next step. I've said very similar about Arteta. Egal, the problem people have is it's like Arteta could do no wrong in your eyes. No matter how many failures he has, you will always want to keep him despite the shortcomings he has as a manager, is what Joshua Jack says here. Someone sing Egal a lullaby after he's done crying so that he can sleep peacefully. I'm struggling to pronounce that name. That's Sammy. Would you pronounce that Sammy? I assume. Thank you. Egal is the face of 90% of Arsenal fans. Hypocrisy
disagree with that.
Is what he says there. Egal, do you think Arteta asks too much of his players emotionally? He has tried to be Pep. Now Mourinho, he's the reason for many of your injuries.
I disagree. I think some injuries are just down to sheer luck, and sometimes it's just down to how good your players prepare. Because physically, if your players prepare very well, they have less injuries. So
they're also overuse injuries again, where your squad hasn't been built well enough.
Yeah,
like
that's
playing
you can blame him for those, but I do think like Jesus getting injured the way that he did, that was just unlucky.
Yep. What about the Saka one?
Yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm running out of time. I've got another show to jump on. Sorry, gents. Will was so respectful and logical why Arteta needs to go, but Delulu go and compare with Zidane. No wonder rivals hate Arsenal so much.
Come on, bro.
B-Dog here says Egal doesn't speak for the non-delusional. Arteta should be looking at changing formation to accommodate the attack to two up front, Marino and Try. Is that Odedeli? Deji, sorry. This year says, so puts his team together and won nothing since. Yeah, but Mark, I still don't get what you're arguing about. I've said if you can bring a better manager in now, I think that's the right thing to do. Also, a big talk when Poch had to go back and watch the content. I remember talking about it, was the falling out with the board. And I said, once you've fallen out with your board and you're no longer getting on, it's a very, very different situation. So, yes, my words about Poch and about Arteta are not the same. It's because the situations are not the same. If there was news today that him and Stan Kroenke or him and Josh Kroenke were fighting and arguing and falling out, my attitude would be very different. So you can't compare an apple with a piece of cheese, my friend. To be fair, City fell off with injuries and Spurs are near relegation battle. Arsenal still challenged for the league. For that, you can praise Arteta, but he still made mistakes. Also, where was Poch in the season where he got sacked? Where were you in the league when he got sacked?
It was not great.
Like 12th or something.
Something like, low in the league. Yes. Again,
I think the dressing room and the league position have such a huge part to play in managers being sacked. And Arteta's nowhere near that sort of level just yet.
Exactly. I don't think he's lost the dressing room. He hasn't lost the boardroom. And that's why it's hard sometimes when people, you've got to keep the same energy. Well, I'll have the same energy for the same situation, at the same type of club, with the same media pressure, with the same money being spent. You can't have the same energy for different situations. That's a weird way to look at life. Even Arsenal, with all their injuries, has a much better squad than to be 5 points above Forest. Forest are doing well, but Arsenal have been disappointing, is what Zane says here. Great super chats. Great show. I've loved it. This is going to redirect you to Hassam's channel, so go and support him. I'm going live in about 3 minutes on the United stand. So if you want to come and talk Manchester United, come follow me over there. We'll be over there for about 45 minutes to an hour. I want to thank my panel. Absolute legends tonight. Great conversations on Salah and the GOATs, Man United by an Osimhen, and of course, should Arteta be sacked or not. Thank you all. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.